Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you might be joining us from for this World Athletics webinar. Delighted tonight to be celebrating women in running. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Chris Robb. I'll be your host for the next 2.5 hours. Got a wonderful show set up ahead of us. We've got 17 guests from all over the world. So let's get underway with this amazing program we have. The first segment, when I finish the introductions, will be a wonderful pre-recorded inspirational session, which was just recorded yesterday. It's a conversation with Mary Ngugi, who many of you would know as an athlete from Kenya. She was a silver medalist at the 2014 World Champs. But she's joining us today in her capacity as the founder of Nala Track Club, and a wonderful conversation with Michelle Sammet, who's the Stakeholder Communications Manager of World Athletics. That will be followed by a panel entitled Increasing Women's Running, the Importance of Research and Institutional Actions. We have an amazing panel here. Primrose Mhunduru, Gender Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Manager from the International Olympic Committee. We have Professor Elizabeth Pike, Professor of University of Hertfordshire and Project Director Women in High Performance Pathway. We have Erica Edwards-O'Neill, who's possibly going to be joining us on a train on her way into New York. She's the Senior Vice President for Diversity, Equity and Social Responsibility from New York Roadrunners. Cheryl Cooky, a professor at Purdue University and co-author of Serving Equality, Feminism, Media and Women's Sports. And the panel will be hosted by Natacha Manchado from Sports Services at World Athletics. That will then be followed by a presentation by Vanessa Peralta Mitchell, who's the owner of VCPM Inc. and the creator of the Game Changers program. And Vanessa will be giving us a presentation titled Empowering Women Through Running, a Certified Coach's Perspective. Following that, we have a wonderful case study, which I'm really excited to be hosting as a panel. It's entitled Case Studies, the World's Finest Women-Only Events and Why They Matter. It will be a panel discussion with Kanae Kuruno, who's the Communications Manager of Nagoya Women's Marathon. Junji Sawada, who's the Race Director of Osaka Women's Marathon, and he'll be supported by his interpreter, who is Tomoko Miki, who's the interpreter and manager of overseas athletes at the Osaka Marathon. And on that panel also Lisa Besko, who's the communication and PR manager from Marathon Gruppen in Sweden. We then have a wheelchair perspective. So the marathon as seen by an elite wheelchair racer. We're delighted to be joined by Catherine Debrunner. She's the winner and course record holder of Boston and Chicago. And last year, she was recognized for her achievements as the Laureus World Sportsperson of the Year with a Disability. And that will be a conversation with Alessio Punzi, who as head of running and mass participation at World Athletics, I'm sure needs no introduction to any of you on the call, or hopefully not. Alessio will then stay on screen and join us for a World Athletics road running update segment. He'll be joined by Carlotta Breda, who's the marketing and brand manager at World Athletics, with some very exciting announcements about the mass participation events at Paris 2024 Olympics. And Christine Bowen, who's the conference director from Race Roster, sharing some exciting news there on an upcoming conference. The final segment is one that I'm delighted to be hosting myself. It's Lessons in Women's Leadership, and it's a conversation with Dawna Stone, the CEO of the Abbott World Marathon Majors. Some amazing insights I'm sure we're going to get from Dawna and her inspirational journey to the very top of our industry. And then we'll come back for a quick wrap up and close with myself and Alessio. So strap yourselves in, about 2.5 hours, a little bit less than that to go now. Delighted to introduce you to our very first segment, which, as I said, was pre-recorded yesterday. It's a wonderful conversation, a hugely inspirational conversation between Mary Ngugi, who was, as I mentioned earlier, the silver medalist at the 2014 World Half Marathon Championships, fresh off a fantastic run where she won the Roma Astai Half Marathon in Rome last weekend. But joining us tonight in her capacity as the founder of the Nala Track Club, and this was a conversation with Michelle Sammet, the Stakeholder Communications Manager from World Athletics. Sit back and enjoy this recording for the next 15 minutes, and then I'll be back to join you.
Mary, first of all, thanks for joining us today. You've just come off a great win in Rome from the half marathon, so congratulations for that, first of all.
Thank you.
We've known you as an accomplished runner for some time. You've won medals at World Half Marathon Championships. You've placed in the top placings at multiple World Marathon Majors. But 2022, you took on a slightly different project, Nala Track Club. What inspired you to set up an all-female running group in Kenya?
Well, to be honest, there's loads of things that inspired me. There's things that I've seen since well, like you said, it's been a long career. There's things that I've seen that happen to young girls that I really did not like, the way they're treated, the way they're not like treated as property. They're not, the lack of equality when it comes to men and girls. And it's something I've always wanted to do. Something I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I was like, I want to do something. And also I've traveled abroad with my fellow athletes, and I've seen how they are. They're like always afraid, they're scared. Some cannot even make decisions for themselves. You can see they're not confident. And I was like, this is not right. And I've also traveled, I've traveled, like, I live in the UK with my husband. I have friends from the UK, the likes of Sarah Hall, Sweden. And I go to races and I see how they carry themselves, how confident they are. And I'm like, wow, I wish our girls in Kenya were like this. And I was also not always the way I am. I was also like, one day, there was a time I was a scared girl. But when I went out and I seen how women are and how they're walking with confidence, believing in themselves. So I can be like this. I don't always have to be that scared girl. I don't always have to be that woman who thinks I can only be a mother. I can always be a wife. I can make decisions for myself. I need someone to make decisions for me. And also, the reason that happened in 22 is, as we know, in 2021, it's when Agnes Tirop died. And I was like, this is what happened to our girls. People knew what happened to Tirop because she was a public figure. She was a world record holder. So that's why people knew about it. But it's something that happens. Women are abused all over in Kenya. Athletes are abused in Kenya. Some are married, but they can't leave their husbands because culturally, when you go, you can't. It's you'll be seen as a failure. Even when you go back to the villages, the parents will be like, this is embarrassing. So it's always the girl's fault. It's your fault. If you're not taking care of your husband, you're not doing the right thing. That's why you're fighting with your husband. So the girls, they're treated like property. They are like, there's no equality. Even in camps, the girls they're like abused by the coaches. They are abused by like their pacers. They can't leave because no one believes you. When you go out and say, oh, this happened to me, no one will believe you. It's always your fault. And you either have to keep quiet and you have to do what the coaches say. You have to maybe sleep with them, or you go home, and you don't want to go home. You come from a very poor, that you have come, you've been in Kenya. You come from very poor background. You want to achieve your dream, to go help your parents, to help your siblings. So you just endure it. And so that is something that made me, no, I need to do something for our girls. I need to do something before someone else is killed like Agnes. We need to empower these girls. They don't have to know they're important. They have to know they are not just like medal winning machines or money making machines that just go make money and bring it to the husband and they will manage for you. So that's why we have Nala, to try and empower and educate these girls. Yeah.
Tell me about the name Nala. What inspired that?
Well, Nala is as you know, it's an African name for a powerful woman, successful woman, empowered women, a lioness, and we want our girls to be that. So I thought, why not? So when you even say, I'm from Nala, you remember what that means, and I want to be that. So
I think that's absolutely beautiful. But as you mentioned, the track club doesn't just focus on the athletes or supporting the girls on the track. It goes much beyond just the training, right?
Correct. Because we want these girls to know they're not just athletes, because we are seen just as athletes go win a race and come back. That's all you can do. We want them to feel empowered. We want them to be successful, to graduate in school, even if they're not doing like so well in athletics. They need to know they're important as well, because even when they graduate and they're out there in the community, we want them to be confident. We want them to be different, so other girls can see them and I want to be like that girl. I try to inspire the community. So it's more about empowerment. Yes, we want them to do well in athletics. We want them to go out and win medals, but we also want them, when they go out there, they can talk for themselves. They can sign a contract. They can say, oh, I don't want this contract. I don't want this race. I want to do that and that. And graduate. Some will not be athletes. They can go become a doctor. They can go become whatever they want. So yeah.
And you touch upon that there. It's also not just the female athletes that you're trying to develop. There's a big emphasis on female coaches as well, correct?
Yeah, we also developing female coaches, because this is something I always say, like when I started learning, I've never been coached by a female athlete. I've never seen on the track a female holding a watch. It's always about men. And when we're talking about empowering girls, they need to see it. Like there's a saying we always say, that you cannot be what you can't see. They need to see that women are not just it's not the matron, it's not the cook at camp. The woman can be the head coach. Inspire them to know that they can be whatever they want. Also, we are also safeguarding these girls, and we want the women there to safeguard them, even at the track. When the men see that this girl has a female coach, they're gonna respect her. They know she has someone who respect her. She has someone who will fight for her. And I also think, well, there's numbers, there is power. Even when if you go to a meeting with the coaches and the women are like, no, this girl should do this, but it's only you in the middle of 50 men. No one is going to listen to you. But when we have more female coaches, we have a voice and we can be listened to, and we are also preaching equality. So what Patrick Sang can do, even I can do. So yeah, we are trying so hard like to develop female coaches, because I think as we try to empower women, we need not just to empower the athletes, also the coaches, even physios. Right now we have a physio at camp who is a female, because it's always men. So we have to show these girls, even us girls can do these things.
And so far, you're close to 2 years in. What would you say are the biggest challenges that you have managing a project like this, but then also still having your own running career to focus on?
The biggest challenge for me, to be honest, is time, because I would want to be with I love these girls and I want to be with them. I want to watch them train. I want to be them with camp where they're messing around, where they're dancing. I want to see them all the time, but I can't, because I'm training. For example, they train in the evening after school. By then I have my second session. Sometimes I'm like seriously so tired from training. So that I would want to do everything. I want to be there for them, but I can't. So that's a challenge for me.
What would you say has been the most rewarding experience so far with Nala Track Club?
Oh, it's when you say this, I always see the smile of these girls when I walk to the camp. And I remember when they first walked in and how shy they were, how they were all down, like their faces. And then 2 weeks in or 1 year in, and they're so confident. It's how they have grown, not just in athletics, in school, socially, in life. They're so confident. It's amazing. They're amazing girls. I think we are in the right direction. They're so confident. They're not afraid to say anything. I go to camp, they just talk to me. They're not scared. So yeah, it's seeing them smile and seeing them making huge steps in athletics, as also in school and socially.
And how many girls have you got at the moment at the camp?
Yeah, I have 17 girls. Yeah, there's 15 in school, 2 are not in school, and we also have a photographer, a woman photographer. I forgot about that. We're just talking about empowering girls, empowering coaches. We're empowering even photographers. We have a female photographer at camp. I think you've seen the photos at Nala Track Club page. She's taking those. So yeah.
That's amazing, because that's another area that is often quite male dominated. When we go out and have big competitions, you see the number of photographers
exactly
coming more and more
exactly.
through, but it's great to include.
Even these girls, they feel it's a thing, like even with her, they're free. they're not like, they continue with their life so she can capture their life. They're not worried about what. Sometimes they see a man and to be honest, it's a cultural problem because you feel like you'll be judged. You feel like you have to act a certain way. But when they have Rahab, her name is Rahab, they're free. They're not scared. They can be themselves. So yeah.
And speaking of successes, I think you've had a very recent success at the African Games trials this week.
Yeah, today, not this week. Yeah, we call her Mary Junior because there's Mary Me. So many people sometimes confuse. So there's Mary Me and then there's Mary Junior. Yeah, she just qualified for the African Games today. She won the trial. So that's a big step. Yeah, we are very proud
to have a Nala in a Kenyan vest, hopefully very soon.
Yeah, that's a huge step. It's a huge achievement for us.
Where do you see Nala Track Club in the future? 5 years, 10 years? You talk a lot about growing it.
I see Nala Track Club producing like world beaters, like in the Olympics, athletes in the Olympics. I see our female coaches going with the Kenya team to represent. I see them being the best coaches in the world. I see us producing graduates because maybe not all of them. I would like all of them to make it in athletics because that's the main thing. They're here because they love athletics and they want to achieve the goal. But I also want to see some of them who maybe might not make it in athletics, graduating in school, becoming empowered women, going out there, being confident and doing their thing. And yeah, and also what I would like to see Nala Track Club set the bar in Kenya for how females should be treated, how athletes in Kenya should be treated.
I think that's
like preaching equality, and women who demand equality, they look at Nala and I want to be a manager. I want to be a female representative. I want to work in the league. I want to be the president of Athletics Kenya as a female. So
I think that's a really, really wonderful goal. Now, if you look at globally, there are a lot of different initiatives that try to use running to help empower girls and women because it is such a global sport. What would be your recommendation to maybe others that are trying to do something similar, that are trying to use running to empower girls and young women?
I'd like to say, always remember why. For example, like there's a why I started Mara, and sometimes there's challenges, and maybe you ask yourself, oh, because everything has challenge, you ask, oh, geez, this is becoming hard. Why did I do this? But then when you remember your why, you keep going. So I would like to tell people, first of all, have a why you're doing it, and always remember why you're doing it. That I think is the main thing.
I think that's a really, really good thing to remember. What would you say are the biggest supporters, or who is it good to get on board when you're starting a project like this? Who has been helping you along the way?
Well, I'd say first of all, my husband has helped me a lot. My husband has helped me a lot, and also the community, like the running community, has helped me a lot. At first, I got some objections from some people in Kenya who were like, "Oh, you're creating a rebellious group, or you're trying this," and I was like, I'm not against men, I'm not against them, but yeah, I've had supporters help me a lot. It's nice to have people who are always telling you what you're doing is right, what you're doing, you're heading the right direction. And I can say my husband has really been there. The international community, to be honest, has been there for me, and they have supported me a lot. So it has helped. And also, like now we have this help of Nike, which we couldn't do without. They're supporting us with everything, and we are very grateful for that, because we need the money to run a club like this, as we have to pay for their school fees, we have to feed them, we have to do everything for these girls. So yeah, you need financial support.
And you've got a big race yourself coming up next month. How are you using Nala Track Club maybe to inspire you yourself in your own ambitions and push you forward in those big moments?
I use that a lot because I know I'm not just racing for myself. I'm racing for these girls. I'm racing for the women in Kenya and the girls all over the world watching us. I want them to see us from the edge of Kenya, even in Turkana, where they don't see us. I would like them to watch in TV and they can see me like I want to be another like me. They don't always have to watch the men. Yeah, so, and the girls are always watching me, so I can always tell them, you can do this, you can win this. They have to see it, not just the words. Like I told you, you cannot be what you cannot see. But even like they watched me win that race on Sunday. They were so happy. So I can go there and tell them, you have to work hard, you can achieve your goals. But now they see I'm doing it, so they'll be like, oh yeah, even coach did it, she went and won, so I can do it too. So I'm doing it. I know it's not for me now. It's not just for me. I can't go there and just, oh, it's me. I know they are watching me. I don't want to let them down. I want to inspire them.
I think you really are. I mean, I'm inspired. I'm sure everybody that's watching this will be inspired by the amazing work that you're doing, Mary. And
Thank you.
all I can say is keep doing what you're doing, and also good luck in Boston, and good luck with the rest of the preparations.
Thank you so much for having me too.
What an amazing and inspirational story. Thank you, Mary and Michelle. So many takeaways there for me, and a couple of them that jump out. You cannot be what you cannot see. What a great comment there. And remember why. I think we so often speak about why, but clearly there's an amazing why that's driving this amazing project. So big thanks again to Mary and Michelle as we move on to our next segment, and we're going to welcome onto the screen our panel to explore increasing women's running, the importance of research and institutional actions. Delighted to have joining us an amazing and very high-level panel, sorry, lost my words there a little bit, from amazing organizations across the globe. Primrose Mhunduru, the Gender Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Manager from the International Olympic Committee. Hello, Primrose.
Hi, Rob. How are you?
Wonderful to see you. A wonderful little tidbit which we'll share. Primrose is from Zimbabwe, and I'm also from Zimbabwe, so wonderful to meet a fellow country person. Wonderful to see you. Thanks for joining us, Primrose. We have also joining us Elizabeth Pike, Professor Elizabeth Pike, who's a professor from the University of Hertfordshire and the project director, Women in High Performance Pathway. Hello, Elizabeth.
Hello, Chris. Hello, everybody.
Thanks for joining us. I'm not sure if she's going to be able to join at the beginning because she's on a train on her way into New York, but she will pop in hopefully before the end of the panel. But I'm going to introduce her now anyway. We're absolutely delighted that she's made the time. Erica Edwards O'Neill, who's the Senior Vice President for Diversity, Equity and Social Responsibility from the New York Roadrunners. And then our final panelist is Cheryl Cooky, Professor at Purdue University and co-author of Serving Equality, Feminism, Media and Women's Sport. Hello there, Cheryl. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Chris. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for making the time. And the panel is going to be hosted by Natacha Manchado, who joins us from Sports Services at World Athletics, who's been very instrumental in helping pull this whole webinar together, been a great supporter of it. I'm going to hand it over to you, Natacha, and I'm sure it's going to be a wonderful conversation.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, everyone. Once again, thank you for joining us. So it's a great pleasure and honor for me, first of all, to host this panel and welcome and share this stage with those amazing women and talk and reflect about the importance of research and institutional actions to increase women's running. So this topic is also special for me, not only because I'm a runner, I am working here in running segment, but also because it's my academic background. I studied gender equity in sports federations in Brazil, so I am really happy to be here with all of you. So thank you once again, and let's start because it's a packed program, so let's start. So I will start with Primrose from the IOC. Prim, it's a pleasure to see you here. And I would love to hear you if you could share a short background on your area and your role at the IOC and how the institutional actions came about.
Thank you very much, Natasha. Thank you for inviting me. I'm so pleased to be here to be sharing this panel with phenomenal women in sport. I will quickly go to, so first, I'm Primrose. I come from Zimbabwe. I'm working for the International Olympic Committee based in Lausanne. and I work particularly in the Gender Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Unit. Within the IOC, we have a department called the Corporate and Sustainability Development Department, where our unit for gender equality sits. Within this department, we have 5 different sections or 5 different topics that include human rights, environmental sustainability, impact and legacy of the Olympic Games, corporate sustainability, and well, I think I'm missing one, but it will come at a later time. And our work is really within the IOC, or rather how this came about within the institution, is that the topic of gender equality is a priority for the IOC leadership, from the president to bottom to everybody within the organization. So gender equality was reaffirmed as part of the Olympic Agenda 2020+5, which is the IOC strategic roadmap. So which meant that the IOC administration needed to implement the strategic view of the president and the leadership. And with that, in 2021, we set out and created the IOC Gender Equality, Diversity and Inclusion objectives that are running from 2021 until 2024. Within our objectives, we have also set out specific focus areas. So because we do know that with the topic of gender equality, there is a lot that you could do, but we wanted to narrow down and streamline our work across 5 focus areas. And because we are talking about research, these focus areas came about after a research was carried out on which areas had the greatest need and that we needed to support within this quadrennial. So we talk of participation of athletes, portrayal of athletes in the media, resource allocation for women's sports. We also have leadership as a main focus area when it comes to the IOC as well as to the Olympic movement. So I would like just to provide a brief data or brief facts, just to allude to the fact that we are taking this seriously and this is on high priority for the IOC. When you look at the IOC leadership, in terms of the IOC commission members, we have 50% women and 50% men on IOC commission positions, which is a huge leap from when Olympic Agenda, the first one, was launched in 2013. And when we also look at the Olympic movements that we serve, we have recommended to IFs and National Olympic Committees a minimum of 30% of women in leadership positions. And the Olympic movement is really working and striving towards fostering this leadership to have more women. I think in a nutshell, I've already said a lot, but I just want to reiterate the fact that the topic is really a priority for the leadership. So that makes it easier for us to be able to implement what we're implementing with their support.
Yeah, amazing. And looking to Paris 2024 Olympic Games, in a few months will come up. And what has been the evolution of women participation in the Olympic Games, at the Olympic Games to date?
So what we see is the first time that women competed in the Olympic Games was in 1900 in Paris, where women only accounted for 2% of the participants. So this year we have Paris in summer, and we will have, for the first time, the IOC has allocated an equal quota of women and men athletes competing. So when we look back, or when we look at it, this has not happened by chance. This has not happened as an accident. But we can see that the progression has been steadily, slowly coming along, because it has taken 124 years to have an equal number of women and men competing at the Games. This is a huge milestone for the IOC, a huge milestone also for the international federations, the National Olympic Committees, or OBS that we work with. Most everybody is working in this ecosystem to ensure that gender equality is being fostered across all our areas. Also, just to add that, in addition to that, we are not yet there when it comes to the Games time leadership roles. Here I'm referring to roles like coaches, roles like international technical officials, medical personnel, journalists that are covering the Games. We have, from Tokyo 2020, we know that we had 13% of coaches were women, where we realized that we have a long way to go. And I will not talk much on this because I do believe Elizabeth will speak about this with the WISH program. We also have a smaller percentage as well, around 32% of international technical officials being women. But I'm also glad to report that we do have 4 international federations that have publicly announced to date that they will have an equal number of international technical officials taking part in the Paris Olympic Games. These are all huge milestones, but it's important for me to also mention that there is still a long way to go because we have multiple categories. It would be great to see equality across all the functions, but we do know that it takes a number of, it takes work, it takes a number of years to be able to advocate, to convince, and to also have resources to be able to achieve this. So we are particularly excited about Paris. It's a huge milestone for everyone in the Olympic movement. And yeah, to see the women having an equal stage with men, it's really, really rewarding.
Amazing, Prim. And a last question, at least for now. What are some of the challenges you encounter in implement gender equality actions?
Well, I think the challenges are not unique probably to me on a personal level or also to the organization that I serve, which is the International Olympic Committee. As we all know who are working in this, our topic is a topic of advocacy. We have to advocate, we have to recommend, we have to persuade, we have to influence. This is the nature of the work that we do. So some of the challenges that we face is that of maybe resources are not available to be able to implement or for another department to take actions that are aimed at achieving gender equality. We also know that in terms of resources, it's not just financial as well as human resources. We work within our Olympic movement network with IMs, with NOCs, and we do know that human resource is one of the challenges that we have. So sometimes there is not someone who is available to implement the actions or the strategies that are set for gender as a topic within the different organizations. And one takeaway that I would like just to encourage everybody who is joining this webinar to say that do not get tired. This is happening. The challenges are not unique to one entity. They are across the globe or across the board. So keep on doing what you're doing. And then I believe we will make the world a better place by fostering gender equality. Thank you.
Wonderful, Prim. Thank you so much. I will just ask to Professor Elizabeth Pike to join. Oh, yes. Hello again, Professor. Thank you for being with us. So let's start. Yeah. So as I asked to Primrose, I would like to ask you to share a short background on the WISH program, and also if you can present how this is helping IOC meet their own objectives regarding women in coaching.
Yes, thanks, Natacha, and wonderful to follow the inspirational words of Primrose. And as Primrose mentioned when she was speaking, the IOC came up with this gender equality and inclusion report that's absolutely grounded in research and evidence that set out those objectives. And the IOC's got a commitment to lead by example. And as Primrose mentioned there's a real dedication to supporting the acceleration of women's meaningful representation in governance, leadership and decision making. So not just quotas and tokenistic, but really meaningful. And one of the objectives there, objective 15, is to have more women who are eligible and selected to participate as coaches at national, continental, world championships and at the Olympic Games. And as Primrose just said, at the last Summer Olympic Games, only 13% of the coaches were women. So we've made huge advances in terms of moving towards full gender equality in the athletes, but not yet in the coaches. And I smiled at Mary's wonderful presentation where she said, if you can't see it, you can't be it. And what the WISH program is trying to do is say, if you can't see it, be it. And this is how you can be the thing that you can't see. So that's what the WISH program is trying to do.
Amazing. And why you set up the program what is its purpose, and how this has been delivered?
Yes, so the role of the program is to prepare future high-performance women coaches for coaching and also leadership roles across all of the levels and at the Olympic Games. So it's not just a technical coaching program, it's also for women to be leaders. It's based on a coach empowerment model, so it's very different to a lot of other programs. It's a very experiential learning program that is designed to further develop the confidence and the competence of the women in a whole range of leadership behaviors. So we see these women not just as outstanding high performance coaches, but also as leaders who can inspire other women and who can help to change the culture of sport. This isn't about fixing the women, this is about fixing the system. So the way it's delivered, it's multiple, very supportive approaches. There's a residential week at the University of Hertfordshire. There are online sessions. They have self-directed group and individual activities. And all of the women are also given 2 mentors. So one is their sport-specific mentor who helps them with their own sport and the more technical aspects, but one of them is a leadership mentor who works with them on those leadership skills. And the programme is funded by Olympic Solidarity. It's led by the University of Hertfordshire, and it's supported and delivered by a group called Females Achieving Brilliance, or FAB. But actually key to the programme is it's managed through a very collaborative partnership with the international federations involved, and ASWIF and AWIF.
Perfect. Thank you again. And a last question, specifically now about athletics. So what some of the coaches from athletics have said about how the program has helped them?
Yeah, we've had wonderful coaches on the program. So World Athletics has fully engaged with the WISH program as part of their pledge to improve gender equality and close the gender gap in line with the We Grow Athletics campaign. So they've sent 8 coaches to WISH from 8 different countries. And those coaches are part of the larger cohort. So at the moment, there's 124 coaches from 60 countries and 22 sports on the program in total. What the coaches tell us is that the WISH program has helped them progress in their career pathway. So the pilot program, the first program, finished in 2021. 3 of those immediately went on to have official roles at the next Olympic Games that followed very quickly. They talk about how it's contributed to positive change in their coaching skills, their leadership, their confidence in particular. And they talk about how actually they learn from coaches from different sports and different countries. So a lot of the athletics coaches might only work with one athlete, but they talk about when they speak to coaches who manage teams, they learn about being a leader of a team. So they're learning across it. And I mean, just to give you a couple of really quick quotes, we've got one coach from Belgium on the program who talked about the significance of the mentoring. But one coach from Nigeria, and this is a direct quote from her, "Sometimes I can be timid and not challenge the status quo. The WISH program is not just about you as a coach, but as a person, a wife, a mother, and a coach." And that's where the program's really different. And we have what we call a mums group for coaches on the program who either are or are planning to become mothers, because women in high performance coaching have to juggle those relationships in a way that not all men do. So we really focus on what are the needs of women in high performance coaching.
Amazing, amazing, Professor. Thank you so much once again. I will invite now Professor Cheryl Cooky to continue this discussion, to reflect about this topic. So thank you again, Professor, to be here with us so early in the morning. So I would start to ask you to please share as well a short background on the gendered media representations of sport that you are such a researcher.
Thank you. Good morning, bonjour, buenos dias, dobro jutro. I think I said good morning in most of the languages I'm somewhat familiar with. If you're not, maybe it's not morning your time, good day. Glad to have you all here, glad to be a part of the conversation. Overall, I think when we're looking at the landscape of media coverage, it's really important to sort of think about the history and the context and some of the distinctions. And so I'm going to go through some of that. When we look at the research, what we know over the last 30 or 40 years, the body of scholarship across various different geographical locations, the overall trend is, in terms of sport media coverage of women's sports, that the percentage of that coverage hovers around anywhere between 4 and 5 and 10 and 11%. So in other words, rarely does women's sport media content and coverage exceed the double digits. Now, of course, there's some important exceptions to that trend. The Olympics are one that we've seen in the research, that women's sports tends to get more equitable coverage in terms of the amount of coverage during Olympic events and also during other high profile international sports events like the Women's World Cup, for example. There's also some really important distinctions that researchers note with respect to the type of media that we're talking about. So it's really important to think about the differences between the amount of coverage with respect to print media, online media, streaming media, online, linear media. So the platform does matter in many instances. And I think one of the really exciting parts of being a researcher in this particular moment is just the proliferation of media outlets and platforms that are really centering women's sports. And I'm more familiar with the US context, but there's a number of different streaming platforms, a number of different social media outlets that are really targeting and focusing on covering women's sports specifically or solely as a way to address some of the dearth of coverage in what we call more legacy media outlets. I also think it's important to note some trends in terms of differences in content across geographical locations. So much of the research that I'm familiar with is based in English language journals. So there might be some important geographical differences that researchers really aren't aware of if it's being published in journals in other languages, for example. I'm also getting maybe some feedback audio-wise, and I think that might be Erica's. Thank you. I would also say that, so for example, with respect to geographic locations and some trends and differences that we might want to take note of, in the United States, certainly the sports of women's basketball, women's soccer, and women's tennis tend to garner the majority of coverage of women's sports. In the United States, there might be some really important differences in terms of cultural context with respect to some of that coverage. So I'm trying to kind of encapsulate 40 years of, thousands of studies of research, but those are some of the high level trends.
Right, perfect. And I will put the question regarding the sport is a powerful agent, a platform to a social change. So how do you see the sport of running, how the running could take this advantage of this in fostering more women's participation?
Yeah, I think so. Certainly, sports overall is just a really powerful purveyor of our kind of cultural beliefs, our understandings about the world. It's sort of the space through which we tell stories about ourselves, and we tell stories about our understandings of the world, right? So when we're writing about sport, when we're thinking about sport, when we're representing sport, we're doing that through particular lenses. When we're thinking about women's sports, one of the prominent narratives that we're seeing in some of the research is the way in which ideas around women's empowerment around equality, around feminist principles are being infused in the ways that we tell those stories. So it's sport becomes this kind of mechanism by which we can think about larger issues related to gender equality, and women athletes and people within those spaces become really important representations and symbolic representations of the kinds of ways that we think about gender in our culture. And women being physically active and athletically competent really challenges and shifts the ways that we think about not just women and their capabilities and the expectations that we might have for athletes, but also women in societies. And this is a big reason why the United Nations and other nonprofit organizations rely on and draw on sport for gender development and gender development goals. And the IOC specifically has done a lot of work in this space, as other panelists have noted, with respect to gender equality and the role that media plays. Within the sport of running, one of the things that I find fascinating as a sociologist who studies this is running is one of those sports where we see kind of men and women competing often at similar times and similar races and in the same spaces. And so seeing women and men competing with and alongside one another can go a long way in terms of pushing our cultural assumptions and expectations around women. And really, I think echoing one of the points that was made in the earlier presentation, right? If you can't see it, you can't be it. Or as Professor Pike said, you know, if you can't see it, you be it, right? And so women athletes and women runners really play an important role in representing not just what women can do on the track or on the field, but what women can accomplish in society.
Amazing, amazing, Professor. Thank you again. Luckily we have Erica here already. So I think that I can invite Erica to contribute in this amazing panel. Erica, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Great. Thank you. So sorry for not being on camera, but so excited to be able to be with you all even through my travel this morning.
Thank you so much, Erica. So just to remind to everyone, Erica is the Senior Vice President for Diversity, Equity, and Social Responsibility at the New York Road Runners. So Erica, I will just start with the first question. So I would like to ask you to share your background at the New York Road Runners and also some of the diversity, equity, and social responsibility programs. For example, the work that you are doing with mothers and also the Run for the Future.
Absolutely. So my background, I've been with the org for going into my 4th year now. I'm an attorney by training. I've been in the diversity, equity, and social responsibility space for almost 2 decades. And so was really excited to come in and be a part of the work that was happening in New York Road Runners. In some spaces, it's new initiatives, and in others, it's an expansion on what was already happening in the org. The initiatives really focus on our ability to deepen our commitment to centering and operationalizing equity in everything that we do. And so further in that example, we can talk about our work with, land acknowledgements, our programs like Run for the Future, but in particular, our work with And Mother and our lactation services. So the org has always provided some lactation services on a very small scale. And in 21, we were able to expand. And in 2022, we began a partnership with a non-for-profit And Mother, which was founded by Alicia Montano, to really focus on nursing mothers. And that's with providing lactation services at the beginning of the race, at the start line, at the finish, and along the course. And so those services are, we provide also the pump the transporting of pumps, but also when mothers come in, they're greeted by a warm environment, not just a kind of cold, sterile seat, but letting the mothers know, putting them at ease that kind of we're there to support them. And so we're in our going into our 2nd year partnering with And Mother, and we're expanding even further. So we started with the marathon, and we've expanded to our other marquee events, the Brooklyn Half, the United Airlines, New York City Half, and we're continuing to really expand our offerings in that space.
Amazing, amazing. And how do these programs impact in the women's participation in New York races, US races? So, for example, in the social and the economic impacts in those races.
Well, we've seen an impact, one, in usage, and so part of that is and sometimes I think organizations and race organizers and folks are doing the right thing and maybe not telling folks. And so the first year we launched, but didn't do, I think, a large push. So we saw folks taking advantage and certainly heard amazing stories and a lot of gratitude, even as we launched, right? We launched it. It wasn't perfect, but we certainly had very positive feedback. And the second year, when we really began a long, maybe a 3 or 4 month lead up, sharing about the services, we had an overwhelming response. I'd say if we had expected, the first year we had 18 to 25, last year we had a little less than 70 folks, 70 women taking advantage of the lactation services that we were able to track. And we've heard from mothers that say, I was able to compete, to finish the race, or I started and trained because I knew the services were happening. And so we know that there is an impact, and we know that it's, though not perfect, we're continuing again to expand. So the first year we were start and finish. The second year we were start and finish in 2 sites along the course. So absolutely, we know that when we think about the needs of women, people with disabilities, and the intersectionality, when we continue to actually make the changes that make folks feel welcome and that provide and remove barriers, in essence, we're looking for continue to look for ways to remove barriers to access, and certainly this is one.
Perfect, Erica. Thank you so much. So we are almost out of time, I guess. So I would just ask, like in 30 seconds, like to each of you, what is the main message that you would like the audience to take away? So we could start with you, Primrose, then Professor Elizabeth, Professor Cheryl, and also Erica to wrap up our panel.
Thank you, Natasha. I think I'll just reiterate what I said earlier, but the key message is really to say that the topic of gender equality is really about advocacy, it's about negotiation, it's about influence. So challenges will arise for sure, be prepared for it, but we will soldier on. And that's just my key message. And also to ensure that, to encourage everyone working in the space that monitoring and tracking is of paramount importance in the field that we are in. Thank you.
Thank you, Prim. Professor Elizabeth?
Yeah, I mean, I'd absolutely echo what Prim has just said there. And I think there's something about the power of networking. So if we're going to make a difference for women and girls in running, in athletics, in any sport, and actually in society, it's all of our responsibility, and to work together and to network. Gender isn't just a women's issue, it's an issue for men and all genders as well. And I've just put a quick link into the chat to the International Working Group on Women in Sport. If people want to connect through that is the network of networks. So if people want to connect, and it's free. So there's the link there. So thank you, and all the very best to everybody who's working in this space.
Thank you so much. Professor Cheryl?
Thank you. I'll just plus one and echo what Professor Pike said about the International Women's Working Group. It's a great entity to get involved with. My takeaway, I think, from this brief conversation is that representation matters, and that covering women's sports matters, not just for the athletes, not just for the sport, but for the larger efforts around advocacy for gender equity. I'll echo Professor Pike's comments that gender matters not just for women, but for all individuals. And so thinking about equity not only benefits women, but benefits men as well, and other individuals involved in the sport. I would also encourage those that are interested in learning more about media and what they might do to consult with the IOC's portrayal guidelines. It's available online. It was recently, I think the most recent report is from 2021. There's some really great guidance and recommendations for how sports organizations can facilitate gender balanced coverage. And then I would also recommend folks that are interested to reach out to me, researchers or a researcher like myself. We can be really great resources in terms of helping you generate evidence-based or research-informed recommendations to help you in your advocacy work and supporting women athletes and women's sports. So thank you.
Thank you once again. And finally, Erica, please, your 30 seconds.
I would encourage people to start. There's so many folks who are trying to get it exactly right. And certainly good is better than perfect, but and understanding that the work won't be stagnant. You're going to need a constant feedback loop. The other piece I'd add really quickly is hearing from the voices who we maybe have not heard from in the past. That's passing the microphone to women. We in 2022, New York Roadrunners launched our contributor circle, and the focus was just that. We launched with one woman, and now we have 5 women who help. 5 women in the running industry who do storytelling. Those are women from historically underrepresented groups, and we are passing our microphone and giving the stage to new voices to tell stories, to give feedback, to really allowing women to help women move us along.
Great. Delightful. Thank you so much once again for our speakers in this panel. Thank you so much for the contribution. And Chris, I think that I must hand over to you now.
Thank you, Natasha. Unfortunately, you must, because unfortunately you must hand back to me, because that's a conversation that could have gone for 2 hours. So many takeaways, a couple of things I jotted down. So much came through to me all the way through about collaboration, the power of networking, as it was put, advocacy, the importance of monitoring and tracking, which obviously speaks to the title of the panel. Representation matters, and I think a really important one there as well, that rang home with me, gender matters for all, that really important comment. Give the mic to new voices, and a really important one about start. I've heard that in various of our different panels that we've had people looking to get it perfect before they move, before they even make a start. Let's look at we can start. But thanks again to our panelists, Primrose, Mhunduru, Elizabeth Pike, Professor Elizabeth Pike, Erica Edwards-O'Neill, and Professor Cheryl Cooky. Thank you, Erica, for taking the call whilst on the road, and congratulations, a wonderful job. Thank you, Natacha Manchado, for hosting the panel.
Thank you, Chris.
As we move on to our next segment, and we welcome back a speaker that we had midway through last year, I think, and she gave a really powerful presentation on that occasion, and I have no doubt it will be similar tonight. Delighted to welcome back to the virtual stage Vanessa Peralta Mitchell. She's the owner of VCPM Inc. and the creator of the Game Changers program. And Vanessa's going to share a short presentation with us about empowering women through running, a certified coach's perspective. Welcome back, Vanessa. Wonderful to see you. I'm going to step away or switch off my camera and give the screen to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. I'm just going to get set up with my screen in the background here. And I'm sharing now, but feel free to let me know if you can't see. So thank you, Chris, again. It's a blessing to be here among fellow women. That panel was awesome. I took so many notes, so thank you. But, it's a blessing to be here with fellow women, and I would say our allies as well, who are all shaping the industry. So special thank you to you, Chris, of course, Alessio, and Natasha for organizing today's webinar, because I know it takes a lot of work. But I'm excited to share how we're empowering women through coaching, and specifically women of color, and how we're using coaching to change the game, not only in our communities, but the industry at large. So first, let's take a look at the industry. So, when I think back to every person who was a part of leading the way for me to become a coach or even a runner, the person leading my certification, the person coaching my marathon training, even the experts at any of the industry events I attended, I keep seeing the same picture, right? So I want you to take a moment, you listening right now, take a moment and think about all your touch points, right? When you started running, or maybe when you started your journey in the industry, who did you see in front of the room? Who did you see on those expert panels? Who did you see on the mic or cited as expert sources? All these touch points communicates who's important, relevant, and valued. So what happens when all these industry experts are a group predominantly of the same gender and the same race? What happens when women in particular who identify as Black, Indigenous, or women of color are in those same spaces, but more as students to the person in front of the room, as audience members to the expert panel, as listeners to those on the mic, and as bystanders when we are reading industry publications? The message becomes clear that these spaces and places don't have us leading the way. And as women of color, we feel unseen, unheard, and undervalued, especially when it comes to what we bring to the expert table. The thing is, we are here, and it became apparently clear that we need more women of color as certified run coaches, because ultimately this means that we'll have more community leaders, more diverse health advocates, and essentially more role models to the generations that follow us into the sport. So you might be thinking, how do we do this? And of course, if you ask me, I would say that our answer is simple. Game Changers, a program that brings in more women of color as certified run coaches so we can redefine who people see as those experts and leaders in the running industry. Because coaching is a powerful tool for recognizing experts and leaders in the running industry, and Game Changers is certainly at the forefront. So let me introduce myself. I realize I, sometimes don't say that in the beginning, but I'm Vanessa Peralta Mitchell, and I am the proud owner of VCPM Inc. and the creator of our Game Changers program. And in being here to celebrate International Women's Day, it just only feels right to share why Game Changers was created in the first place. So meet my mom. Her name is Carmen, or as we call her, Carmencita. My mom, in thinking back in terms of why Game Changers was started, I remember growing up, my mom would literally like nudge me, right? So she would like take her arm and kind of nudge me, but it's because I had to speak on her behalf. Coming here from Ecuador, for her, Spanish is her first language. And as a first generation, I witnessed both her strength and her vulnerability as I became her bridge to the English-speaking world. So I'll be honest, this actually made me pretty shy at first, but it was through sports that I found my confidence. And even more so through running, I found my voice. And as a certified run coach, I started to feel another nudge again. But this time I was speaking up for an entire community. Women of color in run leadership, the voices unheard, much like my mom's. And I realized that the voices unheard in the room really, truly resonates with me and my core. And I no longer wanted us to wait for our turn to be heard. I no longer wanted us to be invisible. And with our Game Changers program, we're doing that tenfold. 89.5% of our Game Changers have gained confidence as a run coach as a result of our program. And what's even more forthtelling is that 68% have gained confidence in other areas of their life too, which is truly testament that this impacts more than just coaching. We are out here in the world changing the game, as 93% of our coaches utilize their run coach certification as a result of being a part of the program. So you may be thinking, how do we do this? And here it is. Our program provides 3 crucial components. We provide funds for run coach certification, mentorship by fellow women of color who are accomplished coaches, and business coaching. So our Game Changers can strategize just exactly how best to use their run coach certification. We are also very intentional and address the 3 main barriers of women of color becoming run coaches. So through our own data, which has affirmed that the 3 barriers for women of color in becoming run coaches are awareness, access, and cost. And the amazing part to this all is that we're not only sending a message about access to running, but when you really think about it, it's also a message of access to run leadership, as we are in fact empowering women of color and making that leap from going from community runner to industry leader. And we're not alone. Brooks has been our presenting sponsor since 2022. And with their backing, we've been able to quantify our impact, as one of the panelists was just indicating how important data collection is. So they've enabled us to, in fact, quantify our impact. And we not only collect data on women of color through our program, but also analyze our impact on communities and the industry. So this is just an example here of our impact as we work with the Tucker Center for Research on Girls and Women in Sport, who is certainly a leader in industry research. And thanks to Brooks, we can make movement accessible, right, to various communities, athletes, and people in the running space, as we most recently distributed Brooks shoes to over 500 people across the United States, which was a real blessing to see. And these are some of the pictures of some of the communities we impacted, from run clubs and run crews to track teams to adults, those adults that are training for races and their starting lines. And a lot of community-based run groups as well. We also work with the Cherry Blossom, Credit Union Cherry Blossom race in Washington, D.C. as our supporting sponsor, where we've built a relationship and a collaboration with their race run coach. And as a result, now 2 of our game changers are the official head coaches of the Cherry Blossom 5K. And we're excited to bring our Game Changers panel this year to the Cherry Blossom Expo. We also work with the Road Runners Club of America, so access to certification is no longer a barrier. We've also played an important role in our RCA, forming things such as their coaching scholarships, as well as their recent Run Lead Badge certification, which is where we advocated for providing essentially an on-ramp, right, for community runners to become coaches. So if you think about this, our voice is being heard in the industry on multiple levels, all because we identified how coaching can impact and propel change. And here's our impact at a glance, as we now have over 100 coaches in 28 states and Washington, D.C. And it's certainly been a blessing, I would say the least. It's been a blessing to see the ripple effect that our coaches are making in getting runners to your finish lines, and also seeing our coaches. And so these are a couple of the small snapshots and some quotes from the athletes that our coaches have coached. You can see one athlete said here that her coach has been instrumental in her development as a runner. Another athlete was setting PRs in her half and full marathon and qualified for Boston. And a runner who has been coached by one of our game changers says that she feels seen and confident. Again, going back to one of the panelists had said in terms, and the speaker had said before about being what you can't see, or if you can't see it, be it. And also a blessing to see our coaches, use their confidence that they found within the program and to take up space in other leadership roles in the industry. Like Coach Glendine. Coach Glendine now sits on the board for the Running Industry Diversity Coalition, or a game changer like Coach Maya, who now sits on the board for Girls on the Run in her area, or Coach Hema, who now works with New York Road Runners and is one of their coaches, or Coach Nasima, who's changing who's seen on the mic as she attended TRE and was able to be interviewed for her expertise. And some other coaches like Coach Sharon, who is a therapist and a coach, and she was able to sit on the panel for RIDC's It's More Than Just a Run in terms of our mental health. Or someone like Coach Becky, who has been cited in women's health as an expert source. So the result of the Game Changers program is changing the industry. It's undoubtedly changing who's in front of the room, who's on those panels, who's on the mic, who's cited as expert sources, but also think about changing who's writing the books, who's being Googled, who's at the table, who's coaching the masses, and ultimately who's leading the way. And the best part is that we are just getting started. And I'm really excited about what the future has for us. So thank you again for having me here. Feel free to connect with me. I wanted to keep this nice, short, and sweet, but you can follow along. Our hashtag is #GameChangers with a lightning bolt at the end. You can find us on Instagram, and that hashtag actually will connect you to a lot of our coaches across the US, as we all use that one universal hashtag. And to see what we're doing next and how we're impacting race expos with our Game Changers panel, feel free to scan the QR code here as we welcome everyone here to come change the game with us. So thank you, Chris.
Thanks so much, Vanessa. Wonderful to see you again. So many great insights. And as you say, the ripple effect that you're creating there, some of those statistics, amazing. 89.5% gain confidence. And the important thing you shared there was how they take that to other areas of their life, 68% into other areas of their life. So congratulations on the ripple effect, the impact you're stating. I'm amazed to see how you've spread from last time we spoke, how many coaches you have in how many states. A huge achievement. Congratulations, and thanks so much again for joining us and sharing those insights. All the very best with the next part of the journey.
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
See you soon, Vanessa. Thank you. So as we say goodbye to Vanessa, we come on to our next panel of the evening. It's titled Case Studies, the World's Finest Women-Only Events and Why They Matter. I'm excited to be joined by Kanae Kuruno, who's the Communications Manager of Nagoya Women's Marathon. Kanae, are you there to join us? Turn on your camera if you wouldn't mind. Hello, Kanae-san, how are you?
Hello, I'm good, thank you. And thank you for having me here. I'm so honored to have the chance to talk here. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you for joining us. We have Lisa Besko, who's the Communication and PR Manager of Marathon Gruppen, joining us from Sweden. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Chris, and hi, everyone. It's really exciting being here today and hearing all these inspirational stories before us. Wow, a lot of interesting things going on.
Absolutely, isn't it? And more inspiration to come from this panel, I'm sure. Many great stories that we're going to hear. We're going to be joined also by Junji Sawada, who's the race director of Osaka Women's Marathon. And Junji is going to be supported by Tomoko Miki. Tomoko has worked with the Osaka Women's Marathon for a long time, and she's going to interpret today, but she's also the Overseas Athletes Coordinator. Hello, Junji-san and Tomoko-san. Nice to see you both.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for inviting us to this great webinar tonight, and we're very and giving us a chance to introduce about the Osaka Women's Marathon.
Wonderful, delighted to have you. And we're going to kick off by going to Kanae-san, a very, very busy time for you. We're so honored that you've given us your time tonight. You're just 3 days out from the Nagoya Women's Marathon. So share with us, if you would, just a little bit about your preparations. I know there's a few pictures that you wanted to show us of where you're up to, but I'm going to give the screen to you for a few minutes just to give us an update of where you're up to ahead of Sunday's race.
Thank you, Chris. I'm going to show you a slide here. And before showing you the photos in the current our venue, I'm going to quickly introduce our race. Can you see that?
We can see it. Just put it into slideshow. We're seeing. We can see your main slide.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay.
The slide.
There you
go.
go.
That's perfect. Thank you.
As Chris mentioned, our race is will be held on March 10th, which is in 3 days. So we are currently very busy for preparation. And our race is world's largest women's only race in the world. And actually in the 2018 was the maximum people of like 21,000 participants were in the race. And our race is also known as Tiffany Marathon because our finisher prizes are made from Tiffany and its original. And this year, 18,000 women will join the race, and this year's race also serves as Paris 2024 Olympic Games Team Japan selection. So there are going to be a lot of women gathering Nagoya all over the world. So this photo was taken just a few hours ago. It's still ongoing, but our finished venue is almost done. And this is the expo held together with the marathon. And in 3 days, they're going to be like this in the starting point and finishing lane, and lots of women will show the smiles to us, and this is our happy moment. So we are very, very doing hard to prepare for this day.
That looks amazing, and what an atmosphere it must be to finish inside a stadium. There's not many marathons which finish inside a stadium with a closed roof like that. That must create an amazing atmosphere. I'm going to come back to you in a little bit, but I'd like to jump over, if I can, to Lisa. Let's go, and we'll come back to Japan afterwards, but let's go and get a European perspective. And Marathon Gruppen's been around for a long time, and you started your first all-women's event in the 1980s. And I'd love to get a perspective on, what might have evolved, the impact that it's created over those years from, the 80s to 2024. Can you give us some insights into that, please, Lisa?
Sure. So yes, Tjejmilen, which is one of our big all-women's races, was established in 1984, so turning 40 years old this year. And when Tjejmilen started, there were in total 10,000 Swedish women participating in mass participation sporting events, with Tjejmilen included, that had 2,000 women in its first race in 1984, which was considered a huge success back then. And Tjejmilen, which was our first, it's a 10K, our first race, grew really rapidly. So it went from 2,000 to 10,000 the next year to 30,000 participants on its fourth year, and peaked in 1992 with 35,000 participants. So that was its peak year. And when we look back, it's safe to say that back then, a women's race in its own was a sort of movement, like that gave women an arena where they could basically be introduced to the world of mass participation sporting events. It was a time of athletic insecurity for a lot of females. So having this arena was really important for them to actually get a chance to try participating in an activity that had been male dominated. And for a lot of these women, their own relationship with sports wasn't like a first-hand relationship, rather as sisters or wives or mothers to men. So this came as like a huge impact when it came. Today, or last year, we were 500,000 Swedish women participating in mass participation sporting events. So a lot of things have happened during these 40 years. And so today, these races have come to play a different role, I would say. They still act as stepping stones for many women who want to take that first step of entering the world of mass participation events, but still feel a little bit insecure about their athletic ability. They also act as a stepping stone to take that leap of courage to you first try an all-women's race, and then you move on to a gender mixed race. So that's still a crucial role that these events play today. So yeah, things have changed over these 40 years, but they are still crucial to us to introduce the world of mass participation sporting events to women in Sweden.
Thank you. And you touched on that kind of stepping stone to mixed gender events. Talk a little bit about that. I mean, have you got any data research around that shows that the importance of having that women's only event before they make that step?
Yeah, first off, we can see in our own data that a lot of women like start in a mix or in a all women's race and then take that next step to a gender mixed race. Also, what we're seeing today is that a lot of young women are entering our gender mixed races as a first step. But what we're realizing is we've built this foundation. Their mothers and maybe even grandmothers have participated in sporting events when they grew up. Because our all women's races did exist. So these women already have that type of courage and knowledge to take that immediate step into a gender mixed race, which we don't think that they would have unless we would have built this foundation through these all women's events.
Wonderful, and wonderful to hear you talking about young women, because we've heard quite a few concerns over the last few years of not enough younger people coming into our industry as the baby boomers move out the other end. So I'm hearing more and more insights of younger people joining. It's great to hear that that's being mirrored in Sweden. Let's thank you for that. We'll come back to you again, Lisa, but let's head back to Japan and to Junji-san and Tomoko-san. And I'd love to get a bit of background, please, on the Osaka Women's Marathon. Tell us a little bit of the story of Osaka Women's Marathon.
Okay, Osaka Women's Marathon was established as an elite-only women's marathon back in 1982, which is just 2 years before the women's marathon had been included among Olympic events in Los Angeles in 1984. And until then, marathon was kind of considered as a men's sport. And however, by creating women's only marathon event, women runners received more attention, and we are fairly confident that our marathon event have been delivering their distinctive charms, beauty, and powerfulness of running a lot of running to a lot of people around the world. And until today, a lot of promising and great athletes representing Japan have appeared in Osaka Women's Marathon. For example, Yuko Arimori, the 2 times Olympic medalist in 1992 and 1996, and also Naoko Takahashi, the Olympic gold medalist in 2000. Their marathon debut was in Osaka. And in the 2024 race, in this January, just finished, it was the Paris Olympic trial race, and Honami Maeda, the Japanese runner, set a new national record for the first time in 19 years.
Amazing, amazing. So that focus on the elite only, just talk to us a little bit about that, please. And many events have that real, the elites plus the mass, but that real focus on the elites. Talk to us a little bit more about that.
What that mean? Why do we focus on the elite only marathon? In the last edition in January, we had the highest number of participants in 40s. Which was 146 runners out of 407 runners. And it accounts for about 35% of the total. And we had also 96 runners in 50s and 4 runners in 60s. And then the eldest was 55 years old. So Osaka Women's Marathon is the elite only race, which has the quite current qualification time for marathon is 3 hours and 7 minutes. And that's the big goal for amateur runners. Mm-hmm. And not just for the elite, but for high-level amateur runners across Japan and world. Qualifying Osaka Women's Marathon is kind of the desire of many of these women runners. And in other events such as Nagoya or Sweden, they're kind of adjoining city marathons. and they have two separate fields that including elite and general. And then they don't set qualifying time for general runners. So anyone can participate.
Yeah.
Record.
Oh, yeah, I lost your sound for a moment there. Could you maybe just repeat that little last part? Your sound seemed to disappear.
Okay. On the other hand, in Osaka Women's Marathon, if runners don't have the qualification record, they can't enter. So once they qualified, they can receive services close to the elite runners from the organization, as they can all set up their own special drink during the race. So that will be great experience for these amateur runners. And we've always been focused on elite women-only race, and there are many women's runners whose life goal is to participate or continue to participate in our event.
That's amazing, thank you. Brings back some wonderful memories for me. I was lucky enough to be on the lead vehicle in Sydney 2000 when Takahashi won. And one of the most special moments of my 35 years in the industry was driving down Bathurst Street on the course, and there were so many Japanese supporters there waving their Japanese flags, and it was a very, very, very special moment. I hadn't realized that her journey started with you, so you've made a special impact on my life as well.
Is that in the Olympics? You were on the leading vehicle?
That's right, in Sydney. I was lucky enough to be the road event supervisor in Sydney, yes. Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah, very lucky. Kanae-san, let's come back to you. You have a special motto for your race. I'd love you to share that with us and tell us a little story about your motto and the impact it means and what it means to the planning and preparation and delivery of your event.
So our motto is to create the world's best scene for women to shine. And this has not remained unchanged since the first edition. And this philosophy is for both elite athletes and general runners. So we believe our mission is to provide opportunities for women to shine and smile through sports. And for that, we think that fashion is an important element in women's enjoyment of sport and offers unique features for our runners, such as I mentioned, like Tiffany pendant, and also exclusively designed T-shirts for finisher only. And also this year we are gonna hold a sportswear fashion show the day before the race. So I think the fashion is the key to enjoy the sports marathon for women, and that's the concrete thing we are working on.
And I'm imagining that fashion element not only creates an interesting attraction to the event, but there must be some commercial implications of that as well. Does that bring more sponsors and partners to the event? Maybe share with us a little bit around that.
So our sponsor is New Balance. Like they are huge sponsor here, and they create like women's marathon women's marathon only collections. So like lots of runners come to the marathon expo and buy the new wear and wear it on the race day. So that's how it works here. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's only available at the marathon, or can they buy it in retail outlets in the lead up to the marathon?
Yes, it's open to the retail and online store, but they sell these collection only like the period of the 1 month or 2 months. Yeah.
Around the race.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. Wonderful.
Yes.
We'll come back to you again. I'd like to jump over to Lisa while we're on the commercial side of things. I'm interested whether the concept of the women's only event creates different commercial opportunities to the mixed gender events?
Yes, so I'm not sure if this is true for all the nationalities represented here today, but in Sweden, it's known that women are in charge of the household purchases. So being able to offer them an arena, like a very positive arena where they key target group is gathered, has been extremely successful for us. And something that tends to surprise a lot of people is that for our all women's races, for many years, they have had a bigger commercial value than our flagship race, the Stockholm Marathon, in terms of sponsorships. So they are really, really important for us. And they also really broaden our portfolio of possibilities. If you have a sponsor that has to want to showcase a certain thing for its female audience, then you have these specific races, and then you have the mixed gender races where they can showcase something else, which brings us the possibility of connecting these partners to us very, very closely, because they have the possibility of showing different products at different times to different target groups during the year.
Yeah, and you've got a marathon group and has a portfolio of 20 events. So maybe tell us a little bit about that and how these women-only events fit into that portfolio and the opportunity to potentially create that pathway, which we spoke about a little bit earlier, of starting in the women's only and moving through and interlacing those commercial opportunities with it.
Yes, so that's true. We have approximately 20 events each year and around 175 participants, 175,000 participants, that is, during each year. And what's interesting to see is that with our two large all-women's races in the portfolio, that's Tjejmilen, and then we have our 5K race, Vårhuset, that is a series of 5K races that travels around Sweden to about 20 different cities. With those two, we have more women than men in total competing in our races. So we have about 70% female participants and around 30% male in our total portfolio. But if we were to cut Tjejmilen and Vårhuset out of our portfolio, the statistic would instead show 60% male participants and 40% female. And this latter statistic shows Sweden at large. Like if you look at mass participation events in Sweden, that 60 male, 40 female ratio is kind of what you see. So for us, that we have these all women's events kind of changes the mix-up of our portfolio and who our runners are, which is obviously important from a commercial standpoint, because we have these competitive runners that run our competitive races. And then we have the very much recreational runners, the beginners, the women's, the moms, the grandmothers, all of them as well, which makes that we have a great span of runners thanks to our gender mixed elite races, as well as these stepping stone or low barrier races.
Yeah, wonderful. That's really interesting. Thanks for sharing that. Let's come back to you, Junji-san and Tomoko-san. I'm interested in some of the challenges that you had to overcome. I mean, kind of groundbreaking, putting together a women's event is challenging enough, but a women's elite-only event. Share with us some of the challenges that you've overcome when the race started and how it's evolved. What have been some of your biggest challenges?
In the beginning, the challenge was to dispel the image that the women were not suitable for the tough sports such as marathon. And however, a lot of women have been obsessed with the magic of marathon, and they erased that image through our event for sure. So we think it's important to pursue what the women's runners are looking for through marathon.
Yeah, and in terms of then evolving some of those challenges to the services that you provide, how do you see kind of the difference in what it is that you present to your participants? You touched on a little bit earlier on about the aid stations and so on, but talk us through a little bit of the journey of a participant in your event in terms of the services that are different to a general mass participation event when you focus on an elite-only event like that.
Like I said before, we provide similar services to amateur runners as the elite invited athletes from Japan and overseas. And then they can stay at the same official hotel, or we can provide the opportunity to use the special drink tables, so they can experience the pro marathon event with the elite runners.
全選手のゴールをしっかり配信に見せるとか、そういうのですか。特別な、そんなのはしてます。
And also we broadcast all the runners' finish image videos through the YouTube, our official online platforms, so they can all see every one of the runners when they finish
プランナーと同じように。
with the top runners.
And that's live?
It's not live, but it's
Live.
yes,
Live.
it's live.
It's live, yeah.
Yes.
Amazing, thank you. Let's come back across to you, Kanae-san. And I'm interested to just get a sense of where you see women's only events going in Japan. Are there more of them happening? Is there a great role for them to play, or are you seeing more mixed gender events starting to happen?
I think more women runner can join our race, or like women's only race. And currently women's marathon runner is mainly in their 40s or 50s. And considering 10 years ago, the main participants of our race was those in their 30s. That means the marathon running is a sport that can be enjoyed over many years. And so currently we are thinking that our challenge is to attract new women runners. So we are focusing more on communications or PR activities to invite younger runners to the marathon. And also we hold a free virtual running event before the race so that anyone can join and feel the marathon. So I hope these promotions lead us to get new runners and more runners to join our race.
And are you finding that is being successful? Are you starting to attract younger runners? So if you look at your race coming up this weekend, are you getting a better proportion of younger runners coming to join you?
Yes, especially in Japan, the March is the graduation season. So a lot of young students, like university students, try to make the last memory of student lives, and lots of 20s, like lots of younger generations starting to come to our race.
Let's get a perspective of that from you, Junji-san and Tomoko-san. What are you seeing from your perspective in terms of the younger generation starting to join events, and how are you overcoming the challenges of getting younger runners to participate in your events?
We do have the field that we invite the college student runners, which we call Next Heroine. So we invite college student runners, young runners, to our marathon as their debut, and then we encourage them to continue running. And also we do online event before the race, with the to invite all the runners who are qualified for this marathon, and then they can communicate with the elite runners online.
ネクストヒロインには記者会見にも参加。
And also, next to heroine runners, the young runners can join press conference with the elite runners from Japan and overseas. So we try to provide the place to communicate with the elite and younger runners.
Top run.
That sounds like an amazing initiative. So they literally sit at the press conference alongside the elite athletes.
Yes.
What a great initiative. And that must work really well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you for sharing that. We're almost out of time. Let's come back to you, Lisa, as one final question. You've clearly shared the importance of the pathway. You shared of young girls starting to participate in the footsteps of their mothers and their grandmothers. If you fast forward 10 years, how do you see the role of women's only events in Sweden?
Yes, well, I've talked a lot about these events as stepping stones, and I really want to emphasize that they can also be a final destination. They don't have to be a stepping stone. A lot of women that run Tjejmilen or Vårhuset say that the reason why they run these races is because the atmosphere is incredible. And they just enjoy an area where women can perform, run, and inspire each other. So that being said, what we see today is that in the 1980s, organizing an all-women's event was kind of a movement in itself, welcoming women to this world of mass participation sports. Today, we have found that to make these events relevant, we try to connect them to questions that are important in the society to women today. So for example, for Vårhuset, our 5K race, we have joined together with the largest support organization for young women in Sweden. And together we're organizing run clubs so that these women can find places to run together, because the support system, they provide like the mental health aspect of it, and we know that like physical and mental health work together. So that's why we've joined forces with them. And for Tjejmilen, we're making a statement this year, doing a huge exhibition where we're really trying to highlight pioneers in the world of sports, female pioneers in the world of sports, because even though we're making great strides, as we've heard earlier today, the world of sports is still a male-dominated place. So we're trying to really make sure that these races stay relevant and that they are important over time to keep women important in the sports industry.
Wonderful, thank you. All the best on that journey. With that, we're out of time, so I'd like to just wrap up by saying a big thank you. Kanae-san, all the very best for your event this weekend. Junji-san and Tomoko-san, thank you for making the time and the insights about your special elite-only event. And Lisa, thanks for your wonderful insights from Sweden. So as we move on to our next segment, which is a wheelchair perspective, the marathon as seen by an elite wheelchair racer. Delighted to welcome Catherine Debrunner. She's the winner and course record holder of Boston and Chicago. She was also recognized as the Laureus World Sportsperson of the Year with a disability last year. Welcome, Catherine. Lovely to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, thank you so much to be here.
Can I ask you just to try and pull your camera down a little bit? We're losing most of your face there. Yeah, wonderful. That's perfect. Thank you. Thank you for joining. Are you in Switzerland at the moment? You're joining us from Switzerland?
No, I'm right now in the Netherlands where I train for the London Marathon.
Oh, wonderful. Well, all the best with your training there. And introducing, who needs very little introduction, Alessio Punzi, the head of running and mass participation for World Athletics, who's going to take over and lead the conversation with you, Catherine. I look forward to hearing your insight. Hello, Alessio.
Catherine, thank you so much for being here. We know how busy you are. You are in the final phase of your training. Actually, the first question was already burned. I wanted to ask you, what are you training for? But you already shared that it's going to be the London Marathon on the 21st of April. Can you share with us and with the audience why the London Marathon this year is so special for you athletes with a disability?
Well, the London Marathon has a really special atmosphere. There are so many people watching the race who stands at the side and cheer for us. It's really a particular atmosphere which really helps you to go fast till the end. And this year, the London Marathon told us that we have for the first time the same prize money as the able bodies. And for us wheelchair racers, that's really something special. And I'm so grateful for all the wheelchair athletes that we can now get the same money as the runners.
Catherine, you started off in well, you when we had our prep call some time ago, you told me that you've been racing wheelchairs for many years, but your, let's say, high level competitive career started on the track, and then you made the transition to the roads. How would you describe the differences between these two facets of the sport of parathletics, from a competition standpoint, from a financial standpoint, recognition?
Do you mean the difference as a Paralympic athlete
Yes,
to
yes,
athlete?
as a track Paralympic athlete to a marathon racer?
It's something really different, and sometimes it feels for me almost like a new sport, because when I did the races on the track, I was not used to so many spectators, and also the media cover sometimes, or quite often, there was no media cover at all. And when I went to the Berlin Marathon in 2022, that was my first marathon ever, I was really excited about so many attention from the media, from the television, and also so many participants. So that was really amazing for me. And then with the other marathons I did, London and America, I realized how great the marathon world is. And I really like that. Because in the marathons, I really feel like a pro athlete, and I feel like I'm treated like that.
Well, by all means, you are a pro athlete. Is it easier today compared with a few years ago to get visibility, recognition, even sponsors for you wheelchair athletes?
Well, it definitely got much better the last years. I have been doing the racing wheelchair now for almost 21 years, and I really see a big progression, and that makes me really happy. But of course, there is still quite a big difference compared to the sponsoring for able bodies. So it's still the case that if I want a sponsor, most of the time I need to go towards a sponsor and ask if they wanna support me. I remember really well that after the Paralympic Games in Tokyo, where I won gold medal, a lot of people thought that now a lot of sponsors come towards me and wanna support me. There are some who came to me, but mostly it was me who had to make some effort. So yeah, as a Paralympic athlete, you really need to take the initiative. And that's also why I started to work together with a manager who helps me a little to find supporters.
How many times do you typically compete in 1 year, Catherine?
Marathon, I do this year 4. So London Marathon, Berlin, Chicago, and Oita Marathon.
Okay.
And the marathon at the Paralympics, so actually 5. I will, of course, I hope I will be in the Paralympics in Paris, and about 5 track races, more or less. It
What
depends
distances?
really on the year. Everything, so from 100 till 5,000. I do really everything, so from sprinting till marathon, and I really like this diversity.
Well, it certainly is a very diverse sport. But when you and I got together yesterday preparing for this conversation today, this webinar is themed on, it's about celebrating women in running and sport. And initially I thought maybe we should talk about ways in which we can close the gender gap that exists. But then when you and I prepared yesterday, we realized that that isn't as much a problem as some may think in the elite side of sport. I'm quite proud to be working for an organization and in a sport that has equal prize money, men and women. When it comes to road races, it's even mandated in the label road race regulations. Most races would do it anyways, but if you want to be in the World Athletics circuit, you need to have equal prize money between men and women. Therefore, we thought, let's focus on disability sport and on the practicalities of how to stage a disability race, a wheelchair race, considering that most of the people who attend these webinars are typically race organizers, road race organizers. I see that we have some World Marathon Majors representatives online. I would like to acknowledge Mary Kate Shee from Boston Marathon, as well as Professor Yasuo Shima, the new race director of the Tokyo Marathon. Thank you for making the time, Professor. Would you just, Catherine, guide us through the practicalities of traveling to a race? And then if a race organizer who currently doesn't have a wheelchair competition would like to do one, what are the things that they have to think about?
Well, traveling as a wheelchair athlete needs quite some organization. As you know, we have a lot of material we take with us. So we have the racing chair, we have at least 1 or 2 sets of wheels. Some of us take mobile rollers with them to make the warm-up there. So yeah, it's kind of a lot of organization, and the people from the marathon need to know that when we arrive at the airport, some of us need help to carry all the luggage, for instance. So that's one, but I think, or I have experienced with all the marathons, that there was always great organization, great volunteers who were at the airport. So that's really amazing. And well, actually, otherwise, there is not so much special about us wheelchair athletes because we are all fit. We are, some of us can even walk a little bit, and we are really independent. I think really a lot of athletes I know, their goal is to travel alone, to be as independent as possible. And that's also my goal, that if I'm abroad, that I know how to manage my racing chair if there is something broken or something. So I always think, what do I need to take with me in the case there is something broken? And I always experience that all the volunteers and all the organizations was just amazing. So there is actually nothing I can say they should do better.
But in terms of course configuration, what are the absolute no-goes in terms of course design? For instance, cobblestone, first that comes to mind, but what else?
Yes, well, cobblestones can make quite a pain in the back if it's long, or when it's raining, it can be a little slippery, so that can be especially dangerous when there is also a bend. But the marathons I have raced till now was from the course quite okay. Of course, I prefer smooth roads if I can choose from rough roads, but I can understand that the organization cannot change the whole roads. Of course, sometimes the potholes can be a little challenging, especially when we come downhill and come, I don't know, 50, 60 kilometers per hour. And when you ride behind each other, you see it sometimes really late. And then sometimes it's almost too late to react. So that can be quite dangerous if you get into such a pothole. That means if you can fall, or also to get a flat tire. So I think that's quite the biggest issue, actually. And in terms of bends, we have some limits to go in really sharp bends. So I think the organization needs to consider how sharp the bend should be, and especially if it's a bend where you come downhill and then have to turn left or right.
Catherine, you had an amazing 2023. The world of running will always remember the Chicago Marathon 2023 for a reason that was at the same time very uplifting and, with hindsight, extremely sad. The world record in the men's marathon was broken by the late Kelvin Kiptum. In that race, however, you did 1:38:44. Well, when you were there, did you realize that you were part of something historic? And did you feel how strong was the connection that you wheelchair athletes felt with the able-bodied athletes?
Well, the day before, I had a chat with Sifan Hassan, and I know her a little bit because she is also from the Netherlands, and I'm quite often here, and I talk Dutch, so it was nice to talk with her, and she's really open and talks to everyone, and it was nice to talk about her preparation, because in the end, our preparation is quite similar. And I really like that you get in contact with able bodies, because as I said, when we had track races, we nearly had any contact with able bodies, and in the marathons we have also at the press conference, and I really like that. So yeah, that's really nice.
Yeah, it's yet another area in which we have to thank World Marathon Major, Abbott World Marathon Majors, for their leadership and the big efforts they put in making races not just inclusive, but also, for raising the level of elite competition. And then something happened. Then you won a big award. Can you tell us more about it, and especially who you were with on that stage?
At the Laureus Award.
Yes.
Yes, that was really, really one of my best moments in my life. And I actually did not expect to be nominated that year, and to win, that was just too much, actually. I was there with Lionel Messi and Shelley and Fraser Price and a lot of other great athletes. And it was just such a big honor to be there among the best athletes of the world, and to celebrate that evening and to look back on an amazing year of a lot of athletes. And I'm just incredibly honored to win that award. It means so much to me. I see it a little like an Oscar, and yeah, it also makes me so happy for our sport to see how far it came, and I felt so well treated there. Also, great example for integration, same as in the marathons, and that makes me really happy.
Final question, Catherine. What's your motto? Do simple things.
Do simple things as good as possible. It's actually from my coach Arno Moel, and he told me that some years ago, and it's really good motto for the daily life and for everything, because in the end you need to make the simple things good if you want to achieve a big goal. So if you say that for a competition, you don't need to do something else better than you do in the training. You just have to focus on the things you know you are good in, and then the competition will succeed, pretty sure. So that's a little my motto. And if I have a bad day, I focus on the simple things.
Thank you, Catherine. Ladies and gentlemen, your London and Chicago Marathon champion 2023 and Laureus Awards winner, Catherine Debrunner. Thank you, Catherine. And if any of the attendees is interested in disability races, not just wheelchair, because wheelchair is just one category of disability races. I'm also thinking amputees, visually impaired, blind. Do get in touch. This is not managed directly by World Athletics, as you know, but through our network, we will put you in touch with the right people. Thanks, Catherine, and have a great build up to your next event, and see you at the London Marathon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Catherine, for joining us. Such an inspiring story, and I love that. Do the simple things well. all the very best with the rest of your training and your participation in London. As we say goodbye to you and thank you again, and welcome Alessio back for a World Athletics road running update. And Alessio is going to be joined by Carlotta Breda, who's the marketing and brand manager from World Athletics, and Christine Bowen, conference director from Race Roster.
Chris, thanks. Very good. I don't have to do a great deal of talking right now. The World Athletics updates will be delivered by our colleagues Carlotta and Christine. Who wants to go first? Carlotta, over to you.
Thank you, Alessio. Thank you, everyone. The conversations were so interesting. And I'm actually a bit sad that I couldn't join since the beginning. So I'm here because I have very exciting news. As you know, it's the first time that there is a mass participation edition of the Olympic marathon. And the selection was quite difficult to get into, so it was very complicated to qualify. You had to go through their system last year. And we have managed to secure 20 bibs for the marathon and the 10K of Paris this year. And we would like to extend this incredible opportunity to your fan base. So following this call, we will be sharing assets and links so that you can share with your databases on social media. But it's truly a unique opportunity, and it's only running for 2 weeks, a week and a half. So we have until the 18th of March to enter. So I hope you can make the most of it. And yeah, this was it.
It really is a unique opportunity. These races aren't just sold out. They were pretty much impossible to enter unless you lived in France. The registration system was not the most straightforward as it was a particular activation. So as a race organizer, we believe that your fan base, your participants can really be interested in it. So please do get in touch. The contest will close on the 18th of March,
18th,
Monday 18th, 5 p.m. So by then, 20 lucky winners will win probably the most coveted bibs in the world of road running. Thank you, Carlotta. See you soon.
No worries. See you soon.
More exciting news coming from the US. Christine, what up?
Hi, good morning. Nice to see you. And thanks, Chris, for carving out the time for us to talk a little bit about something that Alessia and I have been working on with the team at ASICS and Race Roster for a few months now. And I'm going to share my screen really quickly just to give you folks a little bit of a taste of what we'll be talking about here. So exciting news that some of you probably have heard about, but now it's really the train has left the station, so to speak, as far as the content being rolled out for this exciting new conference that we'll be having here in Colorado next July. This conference is unique and different from the perspective that we're focusing specifically on leadership of organization and leaning into the business side of running events. So we will be bringing together best-in-class world speakers from inside and outside of the industry to share content regarding leadership, best practices around revenue generation, sponsorship, marketing. So it's a little bit different than what we would normally see in some of the other wonderful industry conferences that are available worldwide already. This made a perfect fit because from an ASICS perspective, they are all in on the sport of running and its growth, which also trickles down to the event side of things beyond just the runner specifically. Alessia, would you mind or Chris, would you mind going to the next slide? Thank you. So this is a limited engagement conference where we want to make sure that the folks that are attending are going to find the best value. So we want to keep this a little bit smaller for this first year, probably 150 to 200 attendees that'll be joining us in Colorado. And part of the reason we've chosen Colorado is because there is an opportunity to do so much of our experience and with the education and the networking in the outside venue. So we are excited about this. We are rolling out speakers as on a weekly basis at this point. I'm going to, after this slide is done, I will put in the chat the website if you are interested to take a look at some of the speakers that we have already, as well as an email address that you can reach out for additional information. And something we're just really excited to partner with World Athletics about. And so we hope that you will consider joining us next July in Colorado Springs.
I will. Christine, can we briefly talk costs for a second? How much does it cost?
100%. So the cost right now is for if you were coming, and I should mention that there is a full day of World Athletics programming on Monday that Alessio and his team will be bringing in. I think we have 8 different workshops scheduled. And then Tuesday and Wednesday will be 2 additional days of programming provided by ASICS and the race roster team. The cost right now, if you were to do all 3 days, is $399. If you're just to do the 2 days provided by ASICS, and is going to be $299. That being said, there are price increases depending on capacity. So for example, for every 30 people that register, the price may go up. So I wouldn't wait too long. There is no price increase date, so to speak. It's depending on the volume that's still available. The hotel for this experience, it's an incredible resort hotel in the mountains of Colorado. And that price is $239 per US dollars per evening. But most of your food and hospitality is provided while you are there at the event.
Excellent. And if you are a World Athletics label race organizer, you get $100 off the registration price. And if you are an elite gold or platinum label, $200 off the registration price. So it's essentially $100 or $200 for the admission fee, which includes meals, and on top of that, on the accommodation and flight. So very good opportunity. Next,
one other thing is that everyone will get a free pair of ASICS running shoes.
Oh, nice. I didn't know whether you want to talk about it, but
it's public.
Now that you did, I'm going to play this card.
It's public.
What else can we do?
So it makes the expense of attending the conference almost negated. So we're pretty excited to be able to offer that.
Excellent. And then on Monday, we're going to send a dedicated email to all label race organizers with your registration codes. It's obviously open to other race organizers, but World Athletics label event get these interesting discounts. Thank you, Christine, and I'll see you soon.
See you soon, Alessio. Thank you.
And now I'm going to sit back and relax and enjoy Chris's next segment.
Thank you, Alessio, and thank you, Christine. All the best with the planning for that conference. Looks amazing. As we head to the final lap, a lap that I'm hugely excited about, I'm delighted to be joined by Dawna Stone, the CEO of Abbott World Marathon Majors. Wonderful to see you, Dawna.
Hello, Chris. Good to see you.
Yeah, last time we did this was on a stage in Bangkok, and that was a wonderful conversation, and looking forward to today's one. Thank you so much for squeezing us in, so to speak. You've just got back from Tokyo, and I think you head off tomorrow or the day after on a family holiday. So our timing has been very fortuitous, but really appreciate you making the time.
Love being here. Thank you.
Dawna, let's start by just a little bit of insight into how you got into the running industry. Tell us a little bit of that backstory, please.
Yeah, so it's kind of an interesting story just because I started out my career very much in what I would call the corporate world of investment banking and consulting at a pretty high level. So I was an athlete growing up. I swam very competitively from 5 years old on through college. A lot of my college teammates that I swam every day with have Olympic medals. So it was interesting that being an athlete and then getting into the environment of investment banking and consulting, it was very difficult to find a pool to exercise. So really, you know, my running career personally was because I could not find a pool and could not find time with my long hours to swim. And so I started running because when I was younger, running was really a punishment, right? We were in the pool, and if our coach wasn't happy with us or we didn't do a good session, they'd make us get out of the pool and run laps around the track. So that was my first endeavor into the sport of running, was getting in trouble and having to go run around the track. But when I moved to New York and wanted to, you know, stay fit and healthy, running became something that I absolutely loved and could not wait to do. And it really allowed me to feel good and have that energy needed for, you know, the work world. It really wasn't until my early 30s I got an opportunity to run a sports nutrition company in California. And with that job, we sponsored elite athletes, mostly triathletes, some runners. And I just fell in love with the endurance sports world tremendously. And it's so funny. Somebody on the call earlier said that, you know, what was her term? She said something about just a scared girl. And I just remember being 29 years old, almost 30, and walking into this company, and I became the president of this company, and I was scared. You know, I felt like I had this role that was so beyond me. And so it was just interesting how that was my first endeavor into the sports world, my first time really understanding kind of a little bit more about the elite world, the sponsorship world, the media. And from there, I went and worked at a company called Active.com. At the time, it was just starting. It became one of the largest sports registration companies while I was there. And then moved across the country, got out of the sports industry altogether, and spent a couple years as chief marketing officer for $1 billion company. And I will tell you, it was a great job, don't get me wrong, but I missed the world of sports so much that after 2 years, I decided to launch a magazine, which became Women's Running Magazine. And that was really no longer just, you know, the sports in general, but really where my career led me down the path to running. And it was one of the most exciting times in my life. Started the magazine, as you know, in 2004. Launched another company in 2009, which was a half marathon series for women. I loved listening to the panel about the women's racing. You know, it was a half marathon series that became one of the largest women's series in the US, and sold both those companies in 2012. Out of the industry again for a little while, and then was so fortunate when the board of Running USA approached me about being CEO, spent some time at Running USA, and then of course here now as CEO of Abbott World Marathon Majors. So I feel like all of that kind of took me from this very non-running corporate you know, career into the world of running. And I will tell you, this is an absolutely dream job. I have never worked so hard in my whole life. I've never had so much fun in my whole life. And the group of people that I work with is just tremendous. You know, our audience is absolutely passionate and incredible. And so it's just so fun to be here. And I always love talking with you, Chris. I had so much fun in Thailand on the stage with you. And it's so good to be here again and talking with you.
It's wonderful to hear those stories again and this amazing journey you've been on. And I think if I'm right, and share it with the audience, when you launched the magazine, there were a number of people just said to you, don't do it, you're crazy. You went and got this advice, you were speaking to mentors, and the kind of common thing was, are you nuts, why are you doing this? But I'd love to hear, what were the needs that you saw when you set up that magazine in 2004, Women's Running Magazine, and how do you think those needs have maybe evolved since 2004 as we sit here 20 years later?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because 20 years doesn't seem like that long ago, but really for the world of like women's running, it was very different, at least here in the States. You know, there wasn't a lot of content back then for women. If you wanted to look up whether it was shoes or apparel or training or nutrition, you know, it was very, very much men focused. And so that was kind of the impetus for me starting the magazine. Was as a female athlete, I just really wanted to hear from other women athletes. I wanted to hear about what I should be doing, what someone my size, my gender, what I should be in the sport looking at, and wanted to hear from other women. And so that was kind of really the reason for starting it. I think we've come a long way in these 20 years. You know, if I get on Google right now and look up anything, I mean, I will see a lot of women in terms of the content. I will see content for me, which is so nice, but that was not what it was like 20 years ago. So it really came about just because almost like a personal need for me. Whenever I looked anything up, I could never find what I wanted to find out. And so that's kind of why, you know, we launched the magazine when we first did in 2004.
Amazing being able to sort out your own personal need through a business that everybody told you would never work and ended up being a wonderful success. Let's move on to the half marathon. I'm interested, back in 2009, picking a distance of a half marathon to start as a series. What was the motivation? You often see people getting in and looking at the shorter distances as the opportunity, and I'm interested to hear 2009, fast forward 2024, why a half marathon and how you think it's evolved in terms of the distance that women are looking to run these days.
Yeah, so the launch of the half marathon series was just as much a business decision in terms of the distance as it was, again, a personal decision. At the time, you know, I had my company, my magazine. I had a 2-year-old daughter at home. I had a newborn son, and I was running one business, about to launch another business. And as a busy entrepreneur and a runner, I found that the half marathon distance was something that I could accomplish, be very proud of, but also have the time to train for. And so that was kind of the reason behind the, you know, the distance that we chose of a half marathon versus a smaller distance or a longer distance. And what we found was it is also a distance, of course, that you can jump off and then use that training to then do, whether it's a full marathon or an Ironman, which, you know, I've done the Hawaii Ironman, a lot of training involved in that. But that half marathon distance is just something that was achievable. And I think as, you know, as women, and we've heard it again in all these different panels, but we're expected to do it all, right? We are expected to be great moms, to be great wives, to be great friends, and all while being successful in our jobs as well. And so just trying to fit that all in, I always find that it's wonderful to be able to talk to other women in the industry, other women that are being very successful in their jobs, and just kind of having that camaraderie to really learn from each other.
Yeah, and so taking that fast forward to now and looking forward in maybe the next 10 years, how do you see the role of women's only events? Do you see them evolving? Do you see them still being as important as what they have been? And, you know, we've heard so many great insights, and clearly they have a really important role. But from your perspective, how do you see those roles?
Yeah, I think the role is even more important now than it was back then when kind of the movement was started. I think Lisa was saying now just the, you know, the reason for doing it or the impetus of doing it has just changed a little bit. So maybe initially early on, it was because there were not a lot of, you know, women in the sport. And so we were trying to bring women in, whether it was a 5K to start or a 10K or half marathon or a marathon. And I think now it's about doing more for the community and doing more to bring additional women into the fold and to build that kind of camaraderie among the women. And so you're looking at maybe some of these races. I mean, you know, it's so interesting to me, having done it so long ago, thinking 20,000 women, 30,000 women, you know, in these events. So maybe it's not as much about, okay, how do we go from 2,000 or 500 women and how do we build these events? It's more now, what do we do when we have these events that have 20 or 30,000 women? How do we utilize those to do more and to do better and to continue to bring women into the fold and support women and support community programs? So I loved hearing that. It's just incredible because having done it a while ago and now been out of that, you know, the women's running part of it where I'm putting on women's only events anymore, it's just so wonderful to hear the success and what people are doing with those events.
Yeah, huge impact, isn't it? Let's switch tack a little bit to focus on the business side of it. So, you know, you've got one of the probably most coveted roles in the industry. Tell us a little bit of what you think created that success. What were the stepping stones to, you've had such an entrepreneurial career, but some of the key milestones that put you in the direction of being able to take on this incredible role of CEO of Abbott World Marathon Majors?
Yeah, I think, you know, when I was younger in my career, I think my motto was always just work harder than everyone around me, and especially the men. And I know that may sound interesting, but I've always been in very, you know, male-dominated industries. And so to stand out in a room, I didn't have to be as good as them. I had to be better. So that was my motto. I say today, I still work as hard as ever, but I also have now at this level, not only work hard, but make sure to surround myself with people that are as good as me or better than me. And that is something I've always done. And so if I'm going to hire someone, you know, I want to build them up to where they're doing the job better than I am. Otherwise, why would I hire anybody? And then support those people to do that job better than I can do it. And so I think that's where the success comes in. I also think just it's really important to, you know, see others doing it. And I love, there are so many sayings and so many people talking about it, but when you can't see other women in these high level roles, sometimes it's hard for you to believe, well, is that possible for you? And it is, right? But we need to have that support among the women at these executive levels in leadership, not only to mentor others, which is extremely important, and there are programs out there that do that, but also at that level when you are in the US, you know, it's kind of the C-suite, you know, the CEOs, the COOs, the chief marketing officers, the chief strategy officers. How do we as women, you know, get together and support each other when we are at that level, so that we can sit on those boards that tend to be all men, maybe one woman. I'm typically usually the only woman in the room when it comes to those types of meetings lately. And so how do we support other women so that we can bring them into the fold and learn from each other as well?
Can you expand a little bit on that in terms of women that are on this call at the moment? You've clearly had some amazing mentors in your life. I often speak to men and women who say, well, why would that person want to mentor me? They're too busy, they're way too senior than me. Can you give some insights into how to attract or approach a mentor, and how those partnerships work, and maybe even some examples of what's really worked for you and how you've gone about it?
Yeah, so Chris, I love this question. And the reason I love it is I find it really interesting. You know, I used to do, I haven't done a lot anymore just time-wise, but I used to give a lot of keynote talks and talking about thinking big and leadership and, you know, revenue growth, those kind of things. And, you know, I'll get out of a room. It could be anywhere from, you know, 100 women in the room to 1,000 women in the room. And I will talk about mentorship typically in any of those talks. And I will have women come up to me afterwards and ask me, will you be my mentor? Will you be my mentor? And it's such an interesting concept, because getting a mentor isn't about finding a woman and just saying, will you be my mentor? Because typically that woman that you're asking to be a mentor probably doesn't have time to mentor everybody that asks her to mentor them. So I always tell people, if you're looking for a mentor, it should be someone that you are currently working with at some level, right? Doesn't mean you're working for them, but you're doing something with them so they can see you in action and know that you're somebody that is passionate and is on that path, even if you're at the beginning of your path, but that you're on that path and they might want to mentor you. So I've had two phenomenal women that have mentored me. And they were both women that I either got introduced to early on. They weren't mentors initially, right? They were just somebody that I ended up meeting through someone, or I worked with them in some capacity, not for them, but we did something together where they got to see me, they got to meet me, they got to see me in action. So one of those women, Mindy Grossman, she was at Nike. I did not know her when she was at Nike, but when she moved to Florida, she became CEO of Home Shopping Network. She was later CEO of Weight Watchers. Somebody introduced us. We had a lunch together, and we started once a month meeting for lunch. And she, at the time, was way busier than I was, you know, but once a month we'd get together, and she saw something in me and I saw something in her. And she has just been a fabulous mentor. Even today, I will call her up and talk to her about challenges or things that are going on. And it could be personal life, it could be career, it could be, you know, passion for what I want to do in a nonprofit sense in the world, or board. And then another woman, Kim Martin, I actually interviewed her for a book I wrote, and that's how we met. It wasn't that we worked together. It wasn't that I went to her and said, hey, I love what you've done, will you be my mentor? But I interviewed her, we stayed in touch. And she was the, you know, president of Women's Entertainment Television. And so those two women were just instrumental in, again, not getting me the next role or the next job, but just women I could go to and just share and get their advice and their thoughts. But I will say this, Chris, so those were two women, but I also had quite a few men that have become mentors. Typically, the men that were mentors were people that I worked for. And when they see your passion and your drive and your willingness to work really, really hard, then it becomes easy to ask that person to become a mentor, or they just become a mentor. You don't even ask them, right? It's just somebody that you pick up the phone now and you can call. And those were men that I worked with in different levels in my career. And even today, I can call any of those gentlemen and just say, hey, here's what's going on. What are your thoughts? You know? And I think the mentor-mentee programs are so important. But again, it's not about just seeing a woman on this call, for example, and then calling her up and saying, will you be my mentor? That's not how it works. And I want people to understand that. Find ways, it's not even in your job. Maybe it's a group that you join, right? Or it could be anything, a nonprofit that you're involved in, and meet these individuals that then you want to learn from. And then once you know them, you can ask them that question.
Wonderful insights. The really fascinating one about someone that you worked with. That's really interesting. Dawna, as always, time flies by. Last question. We're almost out of time. What would you see? We've heard so many great insights tonight of getting more women in running, into running, participating, contributing, but in more of a business sense. I ran an exercise in Stockholm at the European Running Business Conference, and I did it when you were with us in Bangkok, where I asked everyone over 60 to stand up, and everyone to stand up, and then over 60 sit down. And you saw in the room we ended up with, when we got to 30, very few people standing up, and less obviously women. So important for us to bring more women into the business side of the running industry. In the couple of minutes we got left, any insights you think and any advice that you give to people on this call to help make it easier to support? In fact, that's the wrong way to say it. We don't want to make it easier. We want to, when I say make it easier, it's not because you're a woman we make it easier for us. That sounds a bit funny, but how do we get more women into the industry, make it more accessible is probably what I was meaning to say.
Yeah, I think just starting out initially is just supporting each other, the ones that are here now, right? So we'll talk about getting more in, but just being kind of there for each other, supporting each other. We need to see other women succeed. We need to be able to ask those questions. We need to show up, all of us, with our A game, but we need to not be afraid to, ask for advice and to learn from each other. I think you and I talked really briefly when this was all coming about, and I kind of shared that, I'd been thinking about bringing a small group of women leaders in the industry together, just so we can get together, and not only for the future of then having mentee-mentor programs to bring others into the industry, which would be one of the goals, but also for this core group that are currently in leadership roles, for us to be able to get together, to support each other, learn from each other, and just kind of build up women in the industry. It needs to start somewhere. And so where it needs to start is at the top with the women that are already there. And those are the women then that can help drive and bring those other women up into the sport and bring more into the sport as well.
Wonderful, Dawna. Thank you.
When I say sport, I know we talked a lot about the sport, but I'm talking about the leadership or the decision makers in the sport, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, one of the themes that I have seen more and more of since COVID, and we've heard it a lot across this session tonight, is this importance of collaboration. We've been competitive for the sake of competitiveness sake in this industry for way too long, and there's so much more collaboration, and I know you're leading it with the Abbott World Marathon Majors and this opportunity for us all to collaborate for the greater good of this amazing industry. Dawna,
it's like I said, I'm in just a dream job right now. I love it, and I'm hoping that I can help others and kind of come into the industry as well.
Thank you so much again for giving us your time and such a busy schedule. Enjoy your holidays. Wonderful to see you again, and hopefully I'll catch up with you somewhere in person during the course of the year.
Thank you, Chris, and what a wonderful webinar all of this was. It was so nice to hear everybody speak, so thank you for involving me.
My pleasure. Thanks so much. Take care. Bye-bye. So big thanks to Dawna there as we really get to the wrap-up phase. Alessio's back on screen. I'll do a couple of housekeepings quickly. The recording, as I mentioned at the top of the show, this is being live streamed on the Mass Participation World Facebook page. We are recording it. We'll get the recording out. We had a couple of decks there which we will make available to you. Obviously want to wish everybody a very happy International Women's Day tomorrow. All the very best for that and everything that comes beyond it. Thanks to Alessio again for the opportunity to host the show, and to all of our speakers and those of you that have joined us. But over to you, Alessio, for the final word.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Not much left to say besides thank you for hosting this great panel. We learned a lot as ever. A very long program, but as it's often the case, barely scratched the surface of an extremely multifaceted topic. I'd just like to say that the next webinar will be in May, most likely, mid-May. We still have to agree on the theme, but probably will be on shoe manufacturers and their marketing technique and where the technology is going. In cooperation, ideally, you're hearing this first now, Chris, in cooperation with the World Federation of the Sporting Goods Industry. We would like to do a webinar on those topics, given that it's interesting and also timely. check your email in the next couple of days, either Friday or Monday, for two communications. One is about the ASICS World Athletics Running with Business Business of Running conference discount codes. The second is about the contest to win Paris 2024 Mass Race BIPs that Carlotta talked about. So make sure to whitelist my address, even if I have a tendency to spam a few times, or World Athletics addresses. And that's a wrap for me. Thank you for staying the distance, and see you next time. Or the London Marathon if you're there. Bye.
Thanks, Alessio. Bye-bye, everybody.